हेलो फ्रेंड्स, केजी क्लासेस में आपका स्वागत है। आज हम आपको लाइफ ऑफ पीवी शैली के बारे में बताएंगे। शैलीज बर्थ एंड पेरेंटेज। पारसी वारसी शैली 1792 to 1822 was the son of Timothy. In due course, Sir Timothy Shelley and was heir to the baronetcy. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth on August 4, 1792, at Field Place, Barham, Sussex, but the spoon of silver was taken away from the mouth of Shelley by misfortune, which were the products of misunderstanding of his nature and attitude by his parents, and the university in which he studied and the society in which he lived. His father was a typical country gentleman. Shelley, who was very handsome, had 5 sisters and 1 brother. He himself was the eldest. फ्रेंड्स, मैं वीडियो इसलिए जल्दी बना रहा हूँ ताकि MB कम लगे। His schooling. Shelley was first sent to Sion House, which was a private school at Brentford, at the age of 10. Unused to boys' society, sensitive, given to daydreaming, fair as a girl and wearing a crop of brown curls. He was teased by his classmates, so he left the school. Then he was sent to Isleworth and Eton. He sent to Eton in 1804. By there he was known as Mad Shelley. Heading his life at university and his expulsion. In 1810, Shelley went to University College, Oxford. There he cultivated friendship with Thomas Jefferson Hogg, who was a skeptic and a cynic. Reportedly, his friendship with Hogg strengthened his talent. Skepticism, however, he was very happy at Oxford. In 1811, he published a pamphlet entitled The Necessity of Atheism and circulated it among all the Oxford dignitaries. In this pamphlet, he, along with Hogg, vehemently denounced Christianity as a tyrannical force. The pamphlet created a furor, and both Shelley and Hogg were expelled from the university. Heading his life in London and marriage with Harriet. Shelley's father was never satisfied with his son, so soon Shelley fell in a quarrel with him. His expulsion from Oxford had infuriated by father, who refused to grant him permission to come to Field Place in his house unless he realized from his radical views and opposition of Christianity and denounced the friendship of Hogg. But Shelley was of a different metal. Repression steeled his will and aggravated his defiance. He did not go home. He went to London. There he met Harriet Westbrook, a 16-year-old beauty. Harriet Westbrook fell soon in love with him, and unhappy at home, she drew deepest sympathy from the excitable Shelley. At last they eloped and contracted the proper form of marriage at Edinburgh in September 1811. Had an unhappy life in Ireland and London. Shelley's life was not yet settled. During the next 2 years, Harriet had to shift from place to place. Holding been given an allowance by their receptive parents, they lived first at York in Dublin in 1812. where he delivered speeches and circulated his poems. After a brief stay in Ireland, Shelley returned to London, where his wife gave birth to their first child in 1813, and in the following years, another child, a son, was born at Bath. Heidegger's second marriage. In 1813, Shelley came in contact with the renowned political philosopher Godwin. The latter's political individualism and ethical determinism and had impressed him deeply during his college days. It was during these days that Shelley began to grow cold towards his wife Harriet, who aroused his jealousy, suspicion on account of her undisguised intimacy with his friend Hogg. Even the presence of her elder sister did not conduce to their conjugal happiness and harmony. Harriet could not live up to him, and he could not live down to Harriet. After 3 years of married life, Shelley and Harriet separated forever, and 2 years later, Harriet committed suicide by drawing herself in the Serpentine. In the meantime, Shelley had developed a passion for Mary Godwin, the daughter of Godwin. He eloped with Mary in 1814 and married her in 1816. After Harriet's suicide, then he returned to London from Switzerland. In London, late in 1814, Shelley sank to the nadir of his fortunes, haunted by bailiffs cast off by Godwin, and in constant controversy with the forsaken Harriet. Intercourse with Hogg and friendship of Thomas Love Peacock were props of his mind in these dark days. Financial burden were lighted on the death of his grandfather, but his impartial generosity in dealing with Godwin and alleviating the poverty of others kept him till the end of his life under the shadow of death. He visited Switzerland in 1816 again and returned to London in September 1816. The return to London in September was followed by a series of disasters. The suicide of Mary's half-sister, Fanny Emily, though for it Shelley was not responsible, was none the less a shock. Harriet's suicide in November and the consequent embattering of the quarrel with the Westbrook family. To the long drawn out suit in Chancery which deprived the poet of the custody of his two children by Harriet Lanthe and the infant Charles, having a life at Pisa and death. After 1820, Shelley lived in Pisa in peace and happiness. He was there joined his friends such as Leigh Hunt and Byron. He was a great lover of the sea and could never feel happy away from it. His favorite pastime was to float paper boats on water, but he could never learn swimming. On July 8, 1822, he went to pay a visit to Byron along with his friend Mr. Williams. When he was returning, the weather and sea became rough. The boat Ariel in which he was sailing capsized, and both he and his friend William were drowned. A fortnight after, Shelley's body was washed ashore and was burnt according to the quarantine law of Italy on a pyre in the presence of Byron, Leigh Hunt and Trelawney, and his ashes were buried in the Protestant cemetery at Rome. Stanza-wise summary of Adonaises. Adonaises has two distinct but harmoniously linked parts. The first part, from stanza 1 to stanza 37, deals with the lamentation and indignation at the premature death of Adonais. Keats, due to enormous and malicious literary criticism of Endymion. In the Quarterly Review, the second part, from stanza 38 to stanza 55, expresses triumphant exultation and joy because after the death, the individual soul united with the eternal universal soul. Shelley propounds his transcendental philosophy by that death means eternalization and universalization of individual soul. Shelley propounds his transcendental philosophy, and that means eternalization and universalization of individual soul. The last two stanzas clearly expresses Shelley's view that death is a gateway for the union of soul with divinity. In the last stanza of the poem, the poet feels as if his soul, like a boat, is sailing away to some mysterious destination, the universal beauty and love, which is divinity or God. Far from this mortal world, which is full of people who are afraid of death, the life is like a dome of many colored glass, and these colors of Maya do not allow men to see the eternal beauty. It is only death which shelters these colored glasses and enables soul to see God. Traditionally speaking, the first part of the poem is lamentation and mourning, and the second part is consolation. The following is the stanza-wise summary of the poem. Stanza first. Shelley laments for the death of Adonais. Keats, he asks the mourners to weep for Adonais, though their tears will not melt away the frost that overshadow his dear head. Shelley asks the hour of Keats' death to mourn with him. Keats' fame and destiny will never be forgotten. Stanza 2. When Adonais died, his mother Urania was not present. She was half asleep in her paradise, and she was listening to one of his songs recited by an echo. Adonais was killed by a shaft so shot by some unknown enemy. Stanza 3. Shelley was that Adonais is dead and his death should be mourned. He asked the melancholic mother Urania to shake off her slumber, but her mourning is useless, for he is gone to a better world where he will live in bliss. He will not be released to life again when he is engulfed in the void of death. फ्रेंड्स, मैं ये कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि जिनका 1-1 लाख रुपया वेतन है, वो लोग जब दूसरे लोगों को सताएंगे तो क्या होगा इस देश का जो है। सभी को नौकरी, मैं अपनी बात कह रहा हूँ, मैं बीएड 2011 में किया था और 75 जगह से मैंने पूरे 75 ज़िलों से उत्तर प्रदेश के फॉर्म भी डाले 500 रुपये के लगाकर। अब बताइए कितना रुपया हमारे पिताजी ने 40,000 रुपया ब्याज पे उठा के दिया था। अब कैसे ऐसे, हम तो ठीक है थोड़ा सक्षम है, और जो हमारे भाई लोग हैं उनका क्या हाल हो रहा होगा। कोई डिप्रेशन में जा रहा, कोई बीमारी के मारे परेशान हो रहा, कोई परिवार नहीं चला रहा। इसलिए योगी जी से मेरा रिक्वेस्ट है कि हम सभी लोगों को नौकरियां दी जाएं। थैंक्स, बेस्ट ऑफ लक।